Good evening, folks. This is Lincoln Kenobi here, and today I got two articles. In this video, I'm going to have two articles that I'm going to talk about. And this is due to the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 2, which I have been reading about it, that it's been a flop. Ever since I saw Season 1, I did not like what they were approaching with Galadriel, thinking that she's a badass, that she's the best there is, better than anyone and everything, and I just didn't like how they were doing with it, man. Especially when I like this. I'm not a Middle Earthology lore. I've never read the Middle Earth lore. I'm not into that. But I understand the fans. And I have talked to somebody. I've talked to Gary Neurotic about these certain characters, which was Galadriel and Elrond. And he explained it to me that these two characters are been flipped. They have been flipped. And it's just embarrassing, bro. And it's terrible for what they've done. Especially when I have looked at a little bit. I did a couple of videos ago, and I saw that Elrond is the godson of Galadriel, and they ruined it. They ruined it. So I don't know, man. But let's see. So we have this article right here. This first one, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power showrunner claims season 2 was reviewed by Tolkien estate to assure the story adheres to the legendarium, which is kind of bull. But then we have another one that I'll talk about, and it's titled Lord of the Rings Rings of Power director claims Galadriel obviously was in love with Halbrand. Now, to be honest, on that article, to be honest, that's what was going on. I don't know why they did that, bro. Now, people are going to be saying, dude, it's a freaking prequel. Fine, it's a prequel, but it's a sorry-ass prequel. It's wrong. If you guys never read the mythology of, if you guys have never been into a Middle-earth lore, if you've never read the books, and you barely only watched like the movies of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, and watched read the title of the book Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, there's more you got to learn, and I have a lot to learn about it. But like I said, even if I never read them, I just did not like how the show was going. I just didn't like it, and that's my truth. So, but let's just read these articles and see what we got. Let's see what this has. All right. So the showrunners, J.D. Payne, recently claimed that the show's second season was reviewed by the Tolkien estate and a team of Tolkien scholars to assure the story adheres to the legendarium. A post to the official Amazon MGM Studios account on X states, source to screen, showrunner J.D. Payne revealed the season overview is reviewed by the Tolkien estate and a team of Tolkien scholars to assure the story adheres to the legendarium. It is a bold-faced lie on a number of levels. Clearly, the show does not adhere to the legendarium in any regards, rather that be the story of the characters or even the locations. The only thing the show has in common with Tolkien's legendarium is the name of the show and the names of the characters. Nothing else is in common. For example, one of the show's directors claims that Galadriel was in love with Sauron while he was in Halbrand's form. So this is this part right here is going to be another article that we'll talk about. So let's see, what was I? Charlotte Brandstorm told Nerdist, "Yeah, Galadriel obviously was in love with Halbrand. She was very attracted to him. So when Sauron changes shape, Sauron knows this because he gets into her head. So he knows that she's thinking, what's she feeling? So when he immediately takes Halbrand's shape, he completely destabilizes her because that was her weakness. She had very strong feelings for the king, for Halbrand. Obviously, in the first season, Brandstorm added, Halbrand does not exist in Tolkien's legendarium, let alone does Galadriel love him. He is a completely original invention by Amazon MGM Studios." You know, I mean, nevertheless, Amazon MGM Studios recently trotted out Corey Holston, who calls himself the Tolkien Professor, where he claimed there was no such thing as a canon as in Tolkien. Tolkien ideas were ever evolving. Yeah, I looked at this and this was really stupid, bro. This was just so stupid. So which is it? Were they asserting the show ought adhere to canon based on a review from Tolkien estate and Tolkien scholars? Or is there no such thing really as a canon in Tolkien? Regardless of their hypocrisy and contradiction, the purpose of this show is clear. It is to prevent, pervert, and subvert Tolkien's work in an attempt to make it serve the left or at very least ruin the Lord of the Rings. I mean, it really did its job, man. This show really did its job. The way I've been seeing it also, and the way I have been also looking at the views. And it's been terrible, man. So, I mean, novelist Isaac Young explains that modern Hollywood exists to make stories that specifically serve to push the left's politics and increase its own power. Hollywood exists to reward its friends and punishes its enemies, and its products are emblematic of that fact. Hollywood does not exist to entertain you. It is an organ of a greater international apparatus that has declared war on native population of the West. He then used The Last Jedi's depiction of Luke Skywalker as an example. Making Luke Skywalker feed at its breasts was not a poor decision of a worse screenplay. It was a deliberate choice made by corporate executives, directed with it, written, and shot by industry leaders, funded with the backing of millions of dollars, packaged into a movie called Star Wars, and subsequently broadcasted to the entire Western sphere. Make no mistake, this was done with the same spite of a child ripping a toy out of a younger infant's hands and declaring it to be their own, and to make sure it will be their only owned by shitting all over it. He concluded, what has happened to Star Trek and every media franchise, it is not the result of incompetence through today's writers are roughly incompetent. It is the result of seething autistic class that wishes to pervert all film, TV, and literally achievement for the sake of applauding themselves and humiliating their enemies. And in this task, they have unequivocally succeeded. The only thing to do, the only way to win is to step back and let them fester on the dunghill they have created for themselves. He finished. So, it's like I said, dude, I mean, every franchise that Hollywood has touched, like Disney, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, you know, whatever they try to touch, man, they try to take it to ruin, man. I mean, look what happened to Star Wars. Look what happened to Willow. Look what happened to National Treasures, Indiana Jones. Look what happened to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, I say more, man. I mean, this is something that a lot of people are starting to wake up seeing what has been happening, man. But there are many more that are still not seeing it. So, I mean, it's my belief. Let's get on to the next article right now that we have. And this title right here, I'm going to repeat the title. The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, director claims that Galadriel obviously was in love with Halbrand. All right, so here we go. Let's see what we got deep here. In an interview with the Nerdist following the conclusion of the show's second season, Rand Strong was asked, seeing Halbrand really affected Galadriel, what were her feelings for him? She replied, yeah, Galadriel obviously was in love with Halbrand. She was very attracted to him, so when Sauron changes shape, Sauron knows this because he gets into her head, so he knows what she's thinking, what she's feeling. So when he immediately takes Halbrand's shape, it completely destabilizes her because That was her weakness. She had very strong feelings for the king, for Halbrand. Obviously, in the first season, Brandstorm added. As for what Sauron thought, Brandstorm shared her thoughts after being asked. When bonded, characters reunite after separation. It's always intense. Doubly, as if it's Galadriel's and Sauron. Can you talk a bit about crafting their sword fight reunion and what you wanted them each to bring to that moment? She answered, yeah, these are very two magnificent actors who also two extremely strong and magical characters in Middle-earth. And they were also the most powerful people there. So the fact that the two of them were fighting against each other, I wanted to be very epic. And when Sauron realizes that he's not going to win, that's when he starts to change shape and to distract her. So he tricks her really. And he becomes Halbrand for a while because he knew the feelings Galadriel had for him. I also think that Sauron was almost disappointed in the end because I think he would have liked to have Galadriel as his queen. Brandstorm continued, and I think that even, however malicious and dark Sauron is, he's the Dark Lord, and he also believes very strongly that he's there to help Middle-earth. He's going to heal at all. There's a French film director from many years ago called Jean Renoir, and he always said in one of the films called The Rules of the Games that everybody has their reasons, always, and that's what I go by. It's like you always needed to find what their motivation is, and then the character becomes credible too, she concluded. Now, nowhere in Tolkien's Legendarium is there any hint that Galadriel loved any version of Sauron. In fact, Tolkien noted that Sauron perceived Galadriel as his chief obstacle, while also stating that she's never deceived by him either. Furthermore, she is married to Celeborn, and the two have a daughter, Celebrian. Christopher Tolkien explained in his Unfinished Tales, The Lost Lore of Middle-earth, that a note from his father, J.R.R. Tolkien, stated, Sauron endeavored to keep distinct his two sides, enemy and tempter. When he came among the Noldor, he adopted a species, fair form, a kind of simulated anticipation of the later Istari, and a fair name, Artano, High Smith, or Alandil, meaning one who is devoted to the service of the Vala Alui. In the Run of the Ring, of the Rings of Power, page 287, the name that Sauron gave to himself as this time was Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, but that name is not mentioned here. The note goes on to say that Galadriel was not deceived, saying that this Alandil was not in the train of Alu in Valinor, but this is not decisive since Alu existed before the building of Arda, and the probability is that Sauron was in fact one of Aluin Mayor, corrupted before Arda began by Melkor. Elsewhere in Unfinished Tales, Tolkien wrote, he perceived at once that Galadriel would be his chief adversary and obstacle, and he endeavored, therefore, to placate her, bearing her scorn with outward patience and controversy. No explanation is offered in this rapid outline of why Galadriel scorned Sauron, unless she saw through his disguise, or of why, if she did perceive his true nature, she permitted him to remain in Ergilion. In regard to Sauron's aim that he attempting to help Middle-earth, this was the original intention as noted by Tolkien in letter 131 to Milton Waldman. He wrote, in the Silmarillion, I think that's what it is, Silmarillion, and Tales of the First Age, Sauron was being of Valinor, perverted to the service of the enemy and becoming his chief, captain and servant. He repents in fear when the first enemy is utterly defeated, but in the end does not do as we was commanded. Return to the judgment of the gods. He lingers in Middle-earth very slowly, beginning with the fair motives and reorganizing and rehabilitation of the ruin of Middle-earth. Neglected by the gods, he becomes more reincarnation of evil and a thing lusting for complete power, and so consumed ever more fiercely with hate. In the text of the Silmarillion, Tolkien wrote, "Seeing the desolation of the world, Sauron said in his heart that the Valar, having overthrown Morgoth, had again forgotten Middle-earth, and his pride grew apace. He looked with hatred on the Eldar, and he feared the men of Numenor, who came back at whilst in their ships to the shore of Middle-earth. But for long he dissembled his mind and concealed the dark designs that he shaped in his heart." In fact, Tolkien even wrote that Gil-galad and Elrond doubted Sauron's facade and fair seeming ways. Only to Lindon did not come for Gil-galad, and Elrond doubted him and his fair seeming, and though they knew not who in truth he was, they would not admit him to that land. And if it was not clear with that Sauron was only pretending to care about Middle-earth, Tolkien wrote, "Now the elves made many rings, but secretly Sauron made one ring to rule all the others, and their power was bound up with it, to be subject wholly to it, and to last only so long as to should last. And while he wrote the one ring, he could perceive all the rings that were done by the means of the lesser rings, and he could see that govern the very thoughts of those that wore them." So I will say this, everything that I've read right now that Tolkien wrote and everything, I am believing more that this show was not made by Tolkien. This show was not what Tolkien did. This is these showrunners that lied, and they're just trying to mix in the stories to try to combine things. And this Halbrand is just a character that was created by Amazon. A name that was created by Amazon. And of course, there was no love interest between Sauron and Galadriel. So, of course, Amazon created their own story. And these so-called showrunners are fake. So, you guys let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these two articles that I talked about. And that'll be it for the video. So if you like the video, hit the like button. Share this video. Post a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button for me. Alright, you guys have a good night. Bye for now.